Good evening, Avram.
Hey.
How are you doing? Yeah.
That's
Yep.
really, really upset. But
Yep.
don't worry about that right now. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm glad.
Mhm.
All right. What are we pilch pointing tonight?
Can we talk about the jigglers?
Not the Jello jigglers, right?
Oh, you don't know what I'm talking about?
I absolutely do.
Okay.
I whenever I hear that word, I always think of the Jello jigglers, which were basically
Shaky.
just yeah, right? They were just Jello in
Yeah.
shapes. Such a
Yeah. Yes. Jello shaping, jiggling. No, I'm gonna talk about I don't know. Talk about mouse. I mean, it seems so ludicrous, but we've done some. I mean, we could also talk about some other things, but uh, that was my big magnum opus for the week, and we can also talk about why it's ridiculous that you should have to have this. Um, so,
sure.
um, because there's some controversy. Some people, I got some a lot. Actually not this time, but last time we were about mouse jigglers, I got a lot of negative feedback from people saying like you're enabling people to cheat and goof off at their job and whatever. And I have very strong feelings about that. So we could talk about the culture of mouse jiggling.
The,
You
the
know,
fact that there's even potentially such a thing kind of
potentially
annoys me.
mouse jiggling or a culture of it.
A culture
I
of
mean,
that.
a culture of mouse jiggling.
Uh, Whatever.
Yeah. Well, I have some apps to demonstrate too. Uh,
Okay.
so so consider that.
Cool. Cool.
Um,
Sounds good. All right. You see the rest?
let me see. I did not study everything.
Uh, mo- Mobile gatekeeping. Uh, a
Oh.
a bunch of games are shutting down. Bing with GPT-4 and
Yes.
Paramount Plus is getting another new name.
No. No. Oh, come on.
The good news is it's just called Paramount Plus with Showtime because they're merging the two into one platform, but still.
Oh, come on. Okay.
That poor platform just can't get a break, can it?
Why don't they just call it Star Trek? I don't know.
Since that's the reason people subscribe, yeah.
Yes.
I don't know. All
Uh,
right, that can stop playing. That can go there. All right. I think I'm ready if you are. I should remember to hit the record button. There we go. All right, here we go. This week, Apple's getting a little nervous. Gamers are losing some games. Bing wants to chat. And Paramount Plus is getting a new name. Again. It's Sunday, February 5th, 2023, and this is episode 641 of F5 Live. Refreshing technology, a proud part of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. Wherever you are and however you're accessing our show, whether it be on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or Snapchat, through a podcatcher like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, TuneIn, or a myriad of other options. There are live stream platforms like livestream.com, Twitch, or YouTube where you can join the community, get ad-free versions of F5 Live and Piltch, and all of our special events coverage before it goes live, or of course on our website, PLUGHITZlive.com. Thank you for making us a part of your day. There are two ways that you can do that. The first is Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. You can go to f5live.tv/join us. There you can chat with us in the studio. Give us your feedback on the topics as we talk about them. If you can't join us live, that's okay. PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe. There you'll be able to see all of our shows, including F5 Live, Piltch, PLUGHITZ Live Presents, and a whole lot more. And of course, you'll find all the ways to watch, listen, and follow along. And of course, that's all the ways to watch, listen, and follow along today, because that list is going to go up sometime in March. So, just as a warning, more ways to engage with us. Anyway, hello, Avram.
Hey!
We're back.
We're back. 2 in a row, yeah.
How are things?
Yeah. Oh, it's been a frustrating week for a lot of reasons, which are tech related. Yeah. One is I pulled out this lovely Pi Gamer set that I had gotten for Isaac, and the screen doesn't light up, but we've had it in like the basement for a year, so not sure if I can get a replacement one. That kind of sucks.
Boo.
Boo. Then, more importantly, and we can talk about this more in our segment on Google Play and Apple apps, I found out that someone in my family had not restricted their phone and had given the phone to our 3-year-old and had not checked what was going on. And we are not sure whether it was the 3-year-old or a hack, but we have been charged for hundreds of in-game purchases totaling thousands of dollars. And we're trying to get it reversed, but I'm really freaking out.
Understandably,
take this lesson from me. First of all, when I say someone let a 3-year-old play with Unlock, it wasn't me. Don't let a child play with games that have in-app purchases. Don't. If you do, then put on some type of strong password, some type of password. I mean, with my daughter, she probably doesn't even know what a purchase is. She probably just tapped whatever popped up.
Yeah.
She doesn't even have any. But it's not even clear whether it was that, because, like, I don't know if she played with it enough to have purchased have made hundreds of these, and all these in-app purchases are $40 and $100, which is a weird amount. Like, in-app purchases are normally like $5 or something,
right,
on a mobile game. So I don't know what's going on, but it makes me think a lot less of Google Play for allowing this kind of crap to happen.
Yeah.
And we can get to that in the Google Play segment. But meanwhile, if anyone is out there, learn from my mistake. I had heard this so many times from other people.
Yeah. And we've all encountered stories like this, right? When researching for our own publications, we constantly come across these stories, and we're like, what?
Yes.
And yet here we are.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing is, make sure that everyone in the family is double checking your credit card statements frequently and not just at bill time, because these things could be piling up, and if you caught it earlier, you could stop it earlier.
Sure.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
I'll give a recommendation from somebody who has an Xbox account that is publicly accessible to people when they come into the gaming center.
Yes.
What we did was we attached a privacy card. That's what's attached, and we keep it paused, except for when Microsoft is about to bill for Game Pass. So even
Yeah, that would be
if somebody were to go in and try, the purchase is going to be rejected.
that would be great. Uh, that would be great. I didn't even know that my credit card had been attached to this account.
That's
Anyway,
different.
so but yeah, I mean, obviously, that's good. I mean, but I think that's a good thing to do in general with because I think there's a lot of deception going on with the in-app purchases and things like
Hmm.
that, trying to fool you into clicking on something or doing something that you don't want to do.
I've been
So if
seeing that
you
more and more.
like, it's not at all clear to me that like that somehow she didn't hit something that caused it to like subscribe to be paying 40 and hundreds of dollars a day because
Hmm.
it's really hard to imagine somebody actually like I don't think she played with it as many times as we have the transactions on there. So
Right.
um so it's like every single day for weeks. So anyway, the so and Google Play is not does say that you can get refunds for things, but it doesn't make it easy for well, it doesn't make you can try online, but you for every single transaction you have to put in a request, and then they don't let you put in more than a certain number of requests at a time.
Hmm.
So you have to like go a little bit at a time uh, and hope that they will all be accepted because they go through some review process or something. So we're hoping that they all go through. Otherwise, I gotta to fight them with a credit card or something. So good times. Because if
No
I lose,
sarcasm at
then
all.
I'm in. If I lose, then there's no like birthday for my kids or whatever. So great. Anyway, so that's a cautionary tale for the rest of you. Um, and I will show you how you can stick it to your boss in the math later. Uh,
Oh, well, uh,
I'm
on
just
that,
I'm just kidding about that.
Google, if you
Yes.
happen to be listening, feel free
Yeah.
to reach out.
Anyway. Yes.
So, a bit of housekeeping before we get started. Our other company is going to be at the Florida State Fair, exhibiting as part of the STEM Pavilion or Steam Fest, I think they're calling it. I don't know. So we're gonna have our gaming center set up over there. If you happen to be coming to the Florida State Fair, come to I think it's the Creative Learning Center is the name of the building. Find the big red room with the horrible red carpet in the back, and come hang out with us. But of course, that does mean that for the next 2 weekends, well, for about 12 days, there will be no sleeping. There will be no anything that's not Florida State Fair. So the next 2 Sundays we will be off, and then after that we will come back full steam ahead, just so everybody's aware of what's coming up. But for right now, if you happen to be on Facebook or Twitter, you might want to join us over on Twitch or YouTube. You can go to f5live.tv/join us because we're going exclusive over there. We'll see you there. And for everybody else, it's let's get down to some news. This week's Nifty Gifties on F5 Live Refreshing Technology is proudly powered by the Microsoft Store. Whether you're looking for a new laptop, tablet, Xbox, games, or a whole lot more, you can get them at the Microsoft Store. Remember, current students, faculty, parents, and active military can save up to 10% off almost everything. To browse the products and learn more about the discounts, you can go to f5live.tv/Microsoft. So in the intro, we were discussing some issues with Google Play Store, and It is one of several issues that has become a hot button topic among tech enthusiasts with the app stores, both Apple and Google. Less so with Microsoft because they have mostly addressed the concerns publicly. But Apple and Google have some rules about what can and cannot be in the store. In particular, a lot of the concern comes around billing policy. If you want to sell in-app purchases, you must use their payment system, and both companies take a 30% cut unless you happen to be one of the media companies who has negotiated a special deal with Apple for 15%. Avram has his hand raised.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'll let you finish. But actually, based on my experience, it sounds like it's good that it sounds like it's actually a good thing that they're handling the payments, because then you can at least have a superior authority, to a trustworthy authority to appeal to when there are payment and false charging issues, rather than having thousands of different, thousands of different vendors who may or may not be reputable in their payment and return and whatever strategy policies.
True enough. In fairness, most of the companies who don't want to be using, in particular, Apple's payment method, want to be using Square instead. And so you'd be dealing with Square. You could go right to your card company. But from a publisher standpoint, it's a 30% cut that's being taken for this, as opposed to if they were to go with Square, which is where most people want to be, it would be more around like a 3.5% to 4% cut, which is a very different amount of money to give up, which means that theoretically purchases could be lower, or you could get more for the money, things like that. So the developers and the customers have been demanding, well, a couple of things, but kind of an either or. Either we'd like to be able to use third-party payment systems, or we'd like, particularly with Apple, we'd like to be able to install apps from the outside. Apple has full-on said no thank you to both of those things, mostly because the place where they make their money is on the App Store. It's not on the phones. Yes, they make some money there, but where they actually make their money is in-app purchases and recurring subscriptions from the App Store. So Apple has full-on said no. Now, you may remember that when Joe Biden took office in 2021, a couple of months into his presidency, he signed an executive order about competition. Not about tech competition, but about competition in general in business. And it instructed a number of organizations and agencies within the government to go do things. One of those is the Department of Commerce's National Telecommunications and Information Administration, which you may or may not have known existed. I did not. This organization was instructed to put together information specifically about competition in telecommunications, and one of the called out things was whether or not the app stores abuse their position. A report came out from this investigation this week that basically said, yeah, they sure do, and instructed or recommended, because the executive can't instruct the legislative, but recommended that the legislative branch investigate possibly creating regulations and or passing actual laws around what Apple and Google can and cannot do to lock down their platforms. And in particular, they have said that essentially that Apple needs to allow side loading. Now, it doesn't have to be an easy process. It can be all kinds of complicated steps to turn the feature on. Because like with Google, it's not particularly easy to turn on, and with subsequent Android versions, it has gotten a little more challenging. But that's okay. It's okay to make it challenging to turn on because that protects people like my mother, right? Who might accidentally turn it on and get something unsafe on her device. But for those people who do want to sideload, the recommendation is that Apple should be forced to allow it, which obviously we know Tim Cook's not a fan of. He
Yeah,
has
of
said
course.
so many
I
times.
Yeah. Well, look. I mean, they obvious. I mean, did they? Why did they need to investigate this for a year and a half? Anyone could have seen this within like 20 minutes.
In fairness, that might be the case. Like the report is on a lot more than just this. It
Oh,
it's kind of across telecommunications and recommendations based on a number of investigations. This was just one of them.
yeah. So,
And then it's got to go through all the
anywho's,
legal channels, and lawyers have to look at it to make sure they haven't said anything illegal. You know, they may have been done with this a year ago, for all we know.
yeah. So anyway, it uh, yeah. I mean, obviously, this is. I wonder how this kind of ties into the right to repair,
Hmm.
because we've had some right to repair legislation pass, although primarily on the state level.
Yeah.
I don't think there. I think here in New York State, we now have some kind of right to repair, um, and if you can't install software, isn't that sort of like not having the access to your device for the right to repair? I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's not exactly the same thing. You're not repairing it, but uh,
Maybe because take a look at what Apple has done with its M1 and M2 chips, the T3 security chip, I think it's called, that's in it. And I think some of the Intel versions before had this too. But what resellers are finding is that they can't. That they can't touch them. They can't undo them. Because they can't install software if the computers have been touched. Regardless of right to repair laws, they can't install software because the computer's lock. And they prevent you from installing any new software on it,
yeah. See,
including
that
operating
seems
system.
like it would. Yeah, it seems like that would violate quite a bit.
Yeah,
Um, so it's the exact opposite of open source. So
indeed it is.
yeah, I I think obviously I don't think it's going to happen in Congress. I think the current makeup of Congress is too polarized. Even though I'm not sure anybody there are too many people in there who have great love for Apple or anything, but
Right.
nevertheless, I think it's too polarized to pass a legislation about
They
that.
might they might or might not have great love for Apple, but it does appear that they're unified against Google.
Right. So, um, but Google, like they had at least they have the side loading. Although I think it needs to be a little bit easier. I mean, last I checked, you have to like tap something secret 5 times to make the developer channel
I
appear.
think I think the developer tool thing has changed. I don't think it's
Uh,
that anymore. I think there's a under about and then software. I think there's a developer menu now. I might be wrong, but I think so.
but like why that shouldn't be in the per se in the developer menu if it's something like someone wants to install a third party store. Like that's not a developer thing to do. That's
Agreed.
so they should just have it somewhere like, do you want to allow third party stuff, yes or no? And when if you say yes, then maybe it pops up a little warning like, are you really sure? And then you can say yes, and that's it. I mean, like that's what it should be, because the more you bury it, it's anti-competitive behavior,
Hmm.
right? Like no one's going to get. It's nice that you can side load. Like, oh, if I want to just come up with an app and give it to my friends, I don't have to get into the Play Store, which is a hassle. They can just
Which
I could just side load it.
which we literally do with one of your sister companies.
Yeah, exactly.
We
Right.
literally do
That's my
this.
point. We literally do that because Scott makes the for so our sister site Tom's Guide, not to be confused with Tom's Hardware. Uh, anyway, uses a battery test that I originally came up with, and now Scott completely redeveloped. And and for Android, he can just give them the file and they can just sideload it. But for iOS, it's a nightmare.
We've got to go.
Have to.
We've got to submit it to the store to put it into test flight, and that has to be redone every 90 days. Such a pain.
When you submit it to the store, like does it just automatically go through, or is there like some kind of approval process?
So it does the like auto processing where it checks to make sure there's no specifically malicious code. I don't know exactly what it does. That it's not trying to touch things that it's not supposed to, or whatever. There's some little process that it goes through. It usually takes, I don't know, 6 to 8 minutes, and then it's in test flight, ready to go. And that 6 to 8 minutes includes the time to upload it. So it's pretty quick to do, but it is a pain in the butt because the thing expires every 90 days. The build does. There's nothing you can do about it. You've got to go in and actually rebuild it. You can't even resubmit the same IPA. You've got to rebuild the app every time. It's like, oh, I don't know.
That's really dumb. So yeah, exactly. Sideloading would solve that. But the real reason why the industry wants sideloading and companies want sideloading is so that they can come up with their own competing products, their own competing like Epic Games Store or whatever.
Absolutely.
So if you're going to bury the ability to do it, then that's kind of anti-competitive behavior because people aren't going to do that.
True. Yeah. It's all interesting. Obviously, you mentioned Epic Games. Epic is the reason why anybody talks about this today, right? When Apple pulled Fortnite out of the App Store because they allowed external payments for V-Bucks, that opened a floodgate of companies and individual publishers and users all saying, have your rules, we don't care, let us do something else. Let us at least be able to install purposefully outside of your ecosystem. Let your ecosystem stay whatever it is, but let us do our own thing. So that's legitimately Epic is the reason why anybody's talking about this. I mean, you and I have talked about it before that. But,
yes.
But the reason
if they got
why
their way, others
normal
would.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I don't know that I was expecting an agency in this administration to come back with such a hard and fast recommendation. I thought they might softball it a little bit. They might be on the side of we should allow software install, but I was expecting it to be a little softer of a thing. It's not. It is black and white. We need to look into forcing Apple to allow sideloading of apps. So that was a surprise to me, and in my book, a positive surprise as somebody who has one sitting here, right? As a developer and somebody who publishes stuff to Apple devices, it's a massive pain. Trying to get things on an Android phone for us, generally pretty easy, but trying to get it on an iPhone or iPad, whew, it is a challenge, and it would be nice if it was easier. And we're looking just from a like a legitimate business to business use case here, not even a B2C
competitive
type
one.
thing.
Right,
yeah, exactly. We're not trying to be competitive. We're just trying to ease our own workflow so that poor Matthew doesn't have to sign into whatever account on the device and download and then bug me, hey, we got new iPhones coming, can we get a new build and test? Oh, such a pain. And none of that is the case with Android, and it would be nice if they were a little bit more consistent. No idea what's going to happen with this. It is a non-binding recommendation that is kind of sent into the ether, but hopefully people like us talking about it might actually get something done, fingers crossed. This week's Piltch Point with Avram Piltch is proudly powered by PureVPN. The best way to protect your privacy online is with PureVPN. You can hide your online activities, say goodbye to regional restrictions, and improve your streaming quality. Plus, it's available for almost all of your devices. You can get a special price and a 31-day money-back guarantee right now by going to piltchpoint.live/PureVPN. All right, Avram. The thing that I complain about most in corporate IT right now is zero trust. But there's another thing that's a little different than zero trust that drives people crazy too. And you've got some solutions.
Right. Well, isn't this zero trust? I mean, isn't it?
A bit, yeah. I suppose so. The assumption that the employee is always dead unless they tell you otherwise. Which has been my experience.
I mean, here's the thing, right? I mean, if I just really strongly... So, first of all, we're going to talk about mouse jigglers. But before we do, I'm going to tell you what a mouse jiggler is, why I think it's okay that we talk about it, and why people are using them. So, obviously... people have been remote working since way before the pandemic. And even within the office, you're not always right next to all of your colleagues. And a lot of people have chat that they're on, like Slack or Microsoft Teams, and or they have a corporate laptop that goes to sleep after like 5 minutes and they can't change the sleep timeout. And if they get up to go for an extended bathroom break or to get, a snack, they don't want to look like they're slacking. So they are looking for things that will keep the computer awake. They will keep and that is literally a mouse jiggler. Now, now there are obviously a lot of talk about people being lazy. Like, I'm just going to have something jiggle my mouse and go not work. Well, here's the thing. First of all, if a company really wants to spy on you, a mouse jiggler will not fool it. There is really detailed PC monitoring software that's out there that you can pay, that a company can pay for, that you can't detect, and it will take screenshots of your screen, log your keystrokes, log what apps you used, all that stuff. So simply moving a mouse back and forth is not going to fool it in the slightest. So the question is, what kind of manager is looking at someone's away status in Slack or Teams and being like, that person is such a hard worker. Their icon's always green, or that person is such a slacker. I saw that, their icon turned red for a while, or, so anyone who is judging their employees by that is a fool and a poor manager. And, you should be able to you should work around them. Because not only do I have some tech experience, but I have been managing employees for more than 2 decades. I have had direct reports of various kinds. So what I have learned, having people who work remotely, having people who sit next to me, having people who sit behind me, is the way to judge someone as an employee is by what they contribute. If someone can have their butt in the seat for 8 hours a day and do a lame job, you want to see, is the person getting the work done? Now, obviously, if you are in a situation where you're communicating with people a lot throughout the day and someone just disappears without saying where they went to, and they disappear for a long time, that's bad, and you got to take it up with them. But that's not something you find out by someone having a red icon or a green icon. It's like, hey, are you around? Oh, wait a second. This person's not being responsive to me. So So no one should be slacking off at their job. People should be working hard, but at the same time, like you don't want your some arbitrary timeout deciding when the computer is saying that you're not active. Uh, that that is ridiculous. So there's a few. Also, by the way, you might want a mouse jiggler because you're doing a benchmark, right? Now, technically speaking, you should be able to set Windows not to go to sleep if it's Windows. But I have had situations where the screen went off or something went to sleep, even though I thought I had done everything to prevent sleep, right? To prevent my system from going to sleep. So if you could simulate mouse activity, I mean, that's what the jiggler is, right? It's simulating mouse activity or actually causing mouse activity. Uh, if you simulate mouse activity, the computer's 100% going to stay awake. So let's look at a few ways that you can simulate or actually trigger mouse activity without being there. The simplest way is there is an app called, I'm going to share my screen now. There is an app called, let me move the icon. No? Figure. Okay, there's an app called Mouse Jiggler. So let's share a screen. So Mouse Jiggler, where's my, it has such a tiny little, can you even see it? There you go. It's a tiny little thing. Little menu. You launch this, you click the jiggling box, you open the settings, and then you get a choice of how often you want it to run. And then I wouldn't do the Zen jiggle. That doesn't really do anything. It's important. So let's say every 2 seconds. Now watch my pointer. I'm not going to touch it for 2 seconds. See that? Did you see that? It moved ever so slightly.
Yep.
There you go. Right? You can, so you just set the amount of time that you want it to go. You can minimize this. You can sort of minimize it so that it's like I closed it, but it's no, okay. I didn't minimize. I actually closed it. But you can minimize it, and it will jiggle your mouse. But that is a program you need to be able to run. It actually doesn't install; it just runs. So a computer that's locked down, or one where the IT department has a clue of what you're running on there, would definitely show that. Here's another possibility: running an Excel macro. So let's say you had Excel on your computer, and um, you wanted and you were able to allow macros, which may be locked down. Yeah, sorry, I need to make it zoom in more. Anyway, so
You're good.
here's
I
one I've
gotcha.
downloaded. Here's one I've downloaded that is pretty cool, and it lets you set the amount of time you want to move. Then when you hit start, you're going to see it's going to count to 5 seconds, and then shake every five. I just set 5 seconds. You could change that. What's nice about this one is if you're actually moving, it won't shake it. So it like resets the timer. So whereas the other one will just do it. So um, anyway, so that's, and then when you're done, you can just close it. So those are the software ways to handle it. Now let's talk about the hardware ways to handle it. So you can buy a little USB dongle on Amazon for $8, and you can plug it uh, into your laptop or desktop, and you press a button on it, and it will automatically move the mouse for you every few seconds, and it will appear as a Windows HID human interface device as a mouse in Device Manager, so no one will probably be the wiser. Uh, Similarly, you can actually, if you're worried about that, they sell shaking platforms for $25 to $30. And what you can do with those is you get the platform and you buy it, and you put your mouse on top of it, and it just every so often literally vibrates your mouse. Um, so that is really undetectable. Um, You can also make your own like mouse jiggler that several ways. I've seen people tie a string to a fan and tie it to an oscillating fan and tie it to their mouse. Uh, there
Okay,
is
that's
a
pretty funny.
mobile app. There is a mobile app called Mouse Jiggler that will use the that will use a combination of like some lines on the screen, which your sensor would have to pick up, and I found not all sensors do pick it up, and haptics to kind of shake your mouse periodically if you want to use your phone for this. Granted, if you're walking away to go to the bathroom, you might take your phone with you. Um, but if you had a tablet lying around, you could attempt that. Um, you can use a Raspberry Pi Pico, which costs $4, and Circuit Python. We have a how-to on how to do this to create a USB mouse jiggler that works like one of the store-bought ones. And uh, those are the and there are mice that have jiggle mode built in. You can buy a $15 mouse. There are not many, so you're not going to get a Logitech with that feature. You're not going to get a Razer mouse or you know, you're not going to get the top of the line mouse. There's weird companies. One's called Pius. If you really want to be pious, you buy the Pius mouse for like $12 to $20. It's like a little wireless mouse and has a button on it for jiggle mode, and you can put that mouse on it, and then the mouse will. I mean, it doesn't physically jiggle; it will just send the signal for jiggling. So that's your mouse jiggle. Those are your mouse jiggling methods. Uh, I like I said, no one should goof off at their job. This if someone is if a company is really paranoid, they're going to spy on you in a much more effective way. Uh, but I'm of the school of management that you should hire good people, you should treat them as adults, and you should judge them by their contributions. Uh, I think it's very lazy and poor management to just look at whether someone's butt was in the seat. Look at what they did.
Yeah, I've I've never been a fan of the managed by spreadsheet uh, school of any sort. Um, so yeah, I'm 100% with you on that. And then, like you said, there are so many other reasons why you might need something like this. That's not. I mean, just God forbid somebody calls on the phone from the company and you're not there to keep your mouse alive, Anyway, but also, what if, like, for me, right? I've got, because I do Xamarin and Maui development, I've got a PC and I've got a Mac. You know what I'm not always doing? Poking at the Mac. But I do need to make sure it stays alive because when I'm ready to use it, I need to be able to use it.
Right. That's the thing. I mean, so funny when I put the story up, I got some comments from people who heavily rely on this. So one of them was
Mm-hmm.
someone who works for or another magazine in our company, works for a magazine in our company, which I'm not sure if he still does, but he at least did for a while. And he said he used this all the time at home because anytime he'd walk away to like use the bathroom or whatever and he'd come back, the computer was locked after 5 minutes, and since it was a corporate computer he couldn't change the timeout from 5 minutes, and
Yep.
it would make him do like, and he was really annoyed at having to re-log in, and it had like a 2FA login, so
Oh.
it was a really big pain in the butt. um, a friend of mine, the best one though, I have to actually pull up what he said. A friend of mine who works for Hewlett Packard or for HP
Okay.
said something about how he uses it. So what he said is he used them for years on Chromebook demo units because there wasn't a setting to keep them from going to sleep.
Oh. Wow.
This is I don't know if there is now a setting to keep them from going to sleep, but that is an issue. That is definitely an issue with Chrome. Is it's not so easy. At least last I checked, it wasn't so easy to keep Chrome OS from going to sleep. You had to like try and get something that would do a wake lock, and it was difficult. So like, yeah, it's really easy to. It's a really big pain, and like that's a big issue too with our battery tests that we do. is we attempt to we try to set it so that Windows will not go to sleep. And Windows is decent about this, but every now and again, there's something in there that we didn't see that still causes it to wake up.
Yeah.
But of course, the battery testing, it's a little bit of a question whether we would want to do that. I mean, the software one seems like it would be okay, but like if you're physically moving a mouse, does that mean you have to maintain like a 2.4 gigahertz connection? And is that you wouldn't normally do for laptop battery tests? And would that then cause it to use more electricity than it would otherwise use?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I don't know if that it's a material amount of power, but something to look into.
150 or so milliamp hours. So not. I mean, it's not a material amount. Like, it's not a significant amount of power, but it's not an immaterial amount either.
What about What about using a USB mouse dongle that's just attached to the USB port? I wonder how much, because then you have to have something powered by the USB bus. But it's not. We're talking about a little tiny dongle with a light on it. I'm not sure how much. Like, we could try to figure that one out, but maybe I will. But
I think, if I remember correctly, USB, and this might be 2.1. It might have changed since then, but I think the minimum draw on a USB device was 150 milliamps.
Right. So if you're doing that for, like, let's say you had an Ultrabook, like a lightweight laptop that is supposed to last like 10 hours on a charge, with how many minutes?
That's
would
that
cost you?
That's a whole amp out of the battery if it's supposed to last 10 hours.
Yeah, so I don't know.
It's not significant, but it's material.
Yeah, so that's a question. Now the mouse jiggler app might be a good solution, but who knows? Since it's software, it too might be subject to sleeping through, whereas hardware is hard to beat.
Yeah,
and maybe
it's interesting.
I have not tried this, but I know I've seen people come up with weird things that will like whack a key on your keyboard periodically.
Like one of those birds.
Yes, exactly. I think I've seen people have exactly that.
That's hilarious. Oh, I wouldn't have thought about it until you said something.
But
people are
I have
clever.
I have not heard of a keyboard jiggler. Although it would be equally effective, right?
Yeah, like a control key macro.
Yeah, it just keeps. But if it's software, like, it would have to be on the keyboard software.
It had to be hardware
To really be trusted. Yeah, well, it could be firmware on the keyboard, like it.
Yeah. Sure.
With like VIA or QMK or something like that. Program the keyboard. But anyway, that's the
fun. I always love these weird topics, Avram. Honestly, they're my favorite because it gets me thinking about all kinds of oddities. Like, could I use one of these Stream Decks over here? Is there a way to, since it's hardware, is there a way to have it press a key on a regular? I bet there is. So now...
By the way, I'm going to share a little secret with the audience about, like, so, look, I take like writing important, good content very seriously and looking for things that our audience can use. And this is obviously not as hardcore high tech as some of the topics we cover, although there is quite a bit to it. And people really do need this information. But I was curious, when I started to see some information about mouse jigglers and hear from folks about that I know about their need to use this. Like, is this something people search for a lot? So we have a tool we can go to and look at sort of like some search data from the web.
Mm-hmm.
Guess how many people search for mouse jiggler every month?
Oh, probably a lot. 1.5?
1.5 what?
Million.
Oh, okay, it's not that good.
Okay.
110,000.
Okay.
110,000 a month. But that's a lot.
I just decided I was going to go big.
You're gonna go big, yeah. No, I mean like it's. I think it's like if you look at some of the other things that we talk about, like they don't come even close to 110,000 a month. So,
Yeah.
um, so that's actually a lot of people are looking for this information.
Well, that's it's not terribly surprising because I know even somebody within our own group here um, does it. Uh, I'll just say that it's not me. Um, but somebody within our group over here does it because of all the weird things that big companies do because they don't understand how to manage people. I know for a fact because I've seen it. I know for a fact this one's already out there, right?
Yes, go to tomshardware.com and you will find my magnum opus, the Mouse Jiggler Guide.
Oh, well,
I worked a lot of hours on this, testing different jiggle methods.
I I don't doubt that because you take everything seriously. Sometimes to a fault, but you do
Yeah.
take everything seriously, which is why
Well,
I always enjoy whatever you put out because I know that it's gonna be complete.
no doubt.
Well, Avram, I appreciate this one. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to read as well. And as always, I look forward to what we talk about next time. This week's Extra Life on F5 Live Refreshing Technology is proudly powered by EXA. EXA brings the latest technology to gamers, offering the most immersive products for the ultimate gaming experience. They've compiled the best elements of cutting-edge ENC tech, the latest in Bluetooth 5.0 and 7.1 surround, plus extra features into their headsets so everyone can enjoy a sensational gaming experience. And they've got headsets for Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, and PC. Plus, they won't break the bank. Learn more about the headsets that are available and any current promotions by going to f5live.tv/exa. If you've been a loyal listener or viewer for a long time, you might remember that there was a game that EA had out under their Playfish studio called SimCity Social. They unceremoniously shut that game down, and we talked about it on the show for a long time. Here we are, many years later, and I'm still referencing it. Why? Because online games have the ability to vanish in the blink of an eye. Sometimes it's because nobody's using it. We'll talk about one of those. Sometimes it's because the studio gets bored. We didn't exactly talk about that, but there was one of those this week, not a shutdown, but an end of maintenance. And then sometimes it's just because studio shuffles or whatever. This week was a weird one because a lot of games, many of them new, were announced to be shutting down. Speaking of EA, EA's got 2 mobile titles going away. Apex Legends Mobile and Battlefield Mobile. It is just the mobile versions, not the desktop, not the console. The full versions of these games will remain. Just the mobile ones are going away. It's because of a realignment at EA. We've heard that before. The games will disappear May 1st, 2023, when the servers are shut down, but both of them have been delisted as of right now, so you can't even install them if you wanted to. One game that's going away because nobody played it, and I know, hyperbole, I am known for it, not this time. Konami's online murder mystery game Crime Site. If you've never heard of it, not surprised. On launch day, 571 people played the game. This is a Konami game. A reminder, this is a Konami game. They created the rhythm game category. They've had a lot of big successes. Less than 600 players on the largest day of the game. Today, as of about 2:30 this afternoon, the peak over the last 24 hours was 9 globally. 9 people playing. So,
could some of them have been admins?
It could be. Yeah, it could be staff. It could be people who are in there just to put anything into the stats. It's not good. And this one is being delisted on February 27th and will also be gone for good on May 1st. The end of February, end of sale, sometime in May, end of game is going to be a trend that you're going to see here. Knockout City, which came out last year. Say goodbye to that. Season 9, which starts on February 28th, will be its final. There will be extra XP, extra rewards, extra in-game currency awarded. The store will be shut down when Season 9 starts. You will not be able to make any real-world game purchases, but you will be able to use the in-game currency to make purchases. May 23rd will be the day that Season 9 ends, and so will the game. This one is a little more surprising because it is a popular game. We have people at Strike that come in and play Knockout City. It's installed on all of our PCs. In fact, this will be the first game that we uninstall at Strike because the game goes away. So we have people come in and play it. It was on our top 5 list of games played in 2022. But it's a very small studio. I feel a little bit like this is almost a Flappy Birds type situation where they've just overextended themselves and they don't have the ability to continue. I don't know that for sure, but it's kind of what they suggested in their announcement. Another game that's in a slightly different situation, but feels a little bit of a similar game is Rumbleverse. It's a 40-player King of the Hill type battle royale brawler game from Iron Galaxy. That game is getting very little heads up on its sunsetting. The end of the month, February 28th, last day of the game. Goodbye. Obviously, all purchases have been shut down. They have opened the full online experience to everybody. They want at least people to enjoy it before it goes away. And then for games that aren't going away but are seeing end of support, Back for Blood, which seems like it's been out like an hour and a half. They're done supporting it. No new content. They got bored. And in their announcement, that's basically what they said. We're ready to move on to our next game. So we're bored with this one. So enjoy it. We're gonna go over here now. Bye. It's that one was a little less. We're so sorry to be doing this to the community. It's not what we wanted. Blah, blah, blah. And they were like, "Nah, we're bored. We're gonna go over here now. Bye bye." So I guess at least they were being honest. It's a lot of games, and if you think about it, let's see. Knockout City came out late last year, I think. Crime Site came out in April of last year, I think. Rumbleverse came out in August of last year. Like, 3 of these titles will have been out like 14 months or less when they shut down.
I mean, look. Now, I think this raises an interesting question, which is, as you mentioned in the article, like Atari 2600, like games used to never go away.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like, there's going to be no way. Is there going to be any way to play Crime Site, or it has to connect to the server to
So
work?
Crime Site is dead. Rumbleverse, from what we understand, is probably dead. The thing that I like is that I think it's Velan Studios, the developer of Knockout City. They are releasing the server. So you'll be able to create private servers to be able to continue playing the game. So the game as a whole is not going away, just the online matchmaking and all that stuff. You'll have to have your own server. You'll have to configure it. Somebody's going to have to do it. But if it's anything like some of the other games that have done this, somebody's going to run server farms and allow people to continue playing. That's my feeling, because Knockout City has been popular enough that I feel like somebody's going to set up some stuff. They're going to go into Azure. They're going to set up some servers, rent them out, so people can continue playing. That's my feeling. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
Crime Site will be dead, and from what we understand, Rumbleverse is going to be dead. It'll depend on, they might release the server, but I don't think so. There hasn't been any talk of it yet.
I mean, think about if you're on Crime Site now, though. It's got to kind of be like, you ever go to the movies and you realize you're the only one in the movie theater,
Yes.
and you're like, I kind of feel guilty because all these people, the projectionists, whatever, they're just working because I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
If I wasn't here, they might be able to do something else. I don't know. So if you're on Crime Site, they're just working for you.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. I'm just for curiosity's sake. There are 4 players right now.
And we don't know if they're admin. Now, this isn't a game where you play with other people.
Yeah.
So they could all be just one group of people playing together.
True. Yeah.
That's not even enough people to have Clue.
Right. And if this is an online murder mystery game, it definitely feels like it's probably Digital Clue, give or take, right? So 4 people wouldn't be terribly fun, even if they were all in the same game. It's interesting. So I'm looking at the charts, and it's comparing players to Twitch streamers or Twitch viewers. For some reason, on September 29th, there is a big spike where way more people statistically were watching on Twitch than were playing. It's like
Maybe a one streamer.
Yeah, so October 13th, it's 13 players and 10 viewers. October 27th, 44 players and 14 viewers. But on September 29th, 13 players, 906 viewers. Something went really weird that day, and it's the only day like that. Even the week that the game was free, the chart barely does anything. It's really pretty depressing, to be honest. Anyway, so lots of stuff happening, and the time frames on these games are getting shorter, which is, I think, the thing that I'm most concerned about, right? We've seen, and good friend worked on one, we've seen games, go through years of development and then be out for 12 months. Oh, poor WildStar. In the past, but I don't know that I've ever seen this many short-term games get nixed all at once. Like, this is a bit of a bloodbath for theoretically AAA titles. It doesn't look great, but it also might indicate, because we're looking at a battle royale, a free-to-play online dodgeball game. It's possible that what we're looking at here is a failure of the freemium model.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I don't like freemium. Freemium is bad. freemium leads to people being fooled into in-app purchases and things like that. Sorry, sore. I I I think
Oh, you almost made me
in
spit
the
out my
end,
drink. Thanks for that.
like it when look when we I like the model where look, yeah, maybe you have to spend $60 on a game or $20 on a
Hmm.
game or whatever, but you have the game, you play the game, like you don't keep getting by hit up by like panhandlers like every minute, like, oh, would you like some more balloons to pop? Would you like some more
Right.
ammo? Would you like this? Would you like
Panhandlers.
just
That's a great way of looking at it.
it's like yeah, I mean it's 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 very like it's a really annoying like when people or apps are just popping in your face like aggressively trying to get your money and
Yeah.
like
It's like
that's
the it's like the guys selling flowers and stickers in the airport. It's
more like squeegee. It's almost more like a squeegee person, I think. Or
that's
like
a pretty New York answer.
the worst that I thing like that I ever had happen, ever, ever. And like I know I handled this the wrong way. I know it. But I just don't know what the right way is. Like to handle that is I had was in San Francisco, which has a lot of panhandlers, by the
Mhm.
way. Everybody probably knows that. Um, and I had gone to dinner with a friend, and we stepped out of the restaurant and we're walking, and so like, and some guy came and he like squirted something on my shoes, like
Oh,
without he just squirted something on my shoes. I was like, what? And then he proceeded to kneel down and wipe my shoes off without me like consenting to this.
right. Or
And
even
then
interacting.
and then he looks at me and he's like, okay, shoe shine, $20 a shoe. And I was like, and he was kind of an a large man. And I did not want to get in an argument with a stranger, especially in front of my friend or whatever, and like cause a scene. So I was like, okay, I gave him money. What
Okay.
like I don't, but I don't know what you're supposed to what you really should do is be like, hell no, you dropped crap on my shoe.
Yeah.
I didn't even ask you to wipe it off, but I mean, that's what a free to play game is like.
Yeah. Yeah. True. Yeah, I'm generally not a huge fan of free to play games, although game that I play the most right now is Fall Guys, so I guess I can't say that entirely. Um, but that's because it looks good on the front TVs at the
Yeah.
shop. Um, but yeah, I've never been a big fan. I'm not a big fan of online games as a whole. I much prefer to, play by myself, play my game, move on with my day, or at least, have maybe an experience where you're in control of the multiplayer thing, right? Like Left 4 Dead, we'd have a couple of friends play remotely, but we'd create our own game and whatever. But if we wanted to then just play locally, we could. The GoldenEye model, right? Uh, that's what I much prefer. I famously I threw something towards my television and abandoned a game, Dead Island, when a random person showed up in my what I thought was a private game and stole my Jeep. That was the end of the game for me. I had been so excited about that game. That happened. I just put the game away. That was it. I didn't even know that other random people would be in my game, let alone able to steal my stuff. I don't know. I don't like people that much. So, anyway, definitely a bit of a dark week for online gaming. But I do suspect that it's got something to do with the freemium model. I bet we're gonna see less of it over the next couple of years based on how some of these games are starting to go. Maybe, maybe not. But for me, hopefully.
Yeah.
This week's news from the tubes on F5 Live Refreshing Technology is proudly powered by Malwarebytes. Whether you use a PC, a Mac, or a mobile device, Malwarebytes Premium is the company's strongest protection ever. It fights threats that traditional antivirus software can't stop, plus, it actively blocks threats like worms, rogues, dialers, trojans, spyware, and a whole lot more. It allows you to use your computer and mobile devices with confidence and peace of mind. To learn more and to get a special price, you can go to f5live.tv/malwarebytes. So this is an interesting follow-up to last week's Piltch Point. We talked about how generative AI is here, for better or worse, oftentimes for worse, based on the experiences that we've had with it thus far. And we said that it was definitely coming to search. Well, turns out faster than we thought. This week, two interesting things happened. One, a report came out that said Microsoft, who has a major investment in OpenAI, the company that produced ChatGPT, which was what Avram demoed last week, was weeks away from releasing an AI chatbot, whatever, back-ended version of Bing. We talked about it a little bit on the Piltch Point last week, but we didn't have a time frame of weeks away. And then they accidentally released it a little bit to some people who saw an extra tab show up on their Bing homepage. It just so happens that one of those individuals was able to capture some screenshots and a couple of videos of the thing in action to show off how it worked. And it works almost exactly the way we predicted that it would. Rather than giving a list of answers, it tries to give an answer. Whether right or not, and it had a warning on it that said, we don't know. Which isn't great, but at least it does have the warning that says, this is AI based. It might be nonsense. So, grain of salt. But, it does try to give an answer, and then it gives follow-up links under the answer to the sources that it used to generate the answer. So it's like the answer box, but seemingly on the surface, with less reason to click through, because it writes an answer in a tone similar to the way you ask the question, but it's still GPT based, and so the answers could still be incorrect, missing context, or harmful, as our demo last week showed.
So many problems, but the biggest problem is if this is, by the way, what you didn't mention is that Google is about to demonstrate the same thing.
Its own technology, which is,
yes,
the reason why this is interesting is it's just the next version of what you demonstrated with a live failure on the show last week.
Yes.
This is just version 4, and what you showed was version 3.
Yes. I mean, that is true, but I expect that the Google one would work in a similar way.
Yeah, most certainly.
I mean, the fact that it may be better, it may be the same. People will immediately start, as soon as it's out there, people will immediately start to, including me, will probably immediately start to try to poke a hole in it and find, see how accurate it is. But the thing is, I think the biggest problem, which is what you mentioned in the article, is if this is the new future of search, then the future of publishing is in big trouble,
Mm-hmm.
because we've, for uh, like 25 years now, people have counted on uh, search engine optimization or being in the search
Mm-hmm.
results to get them uh, to get traffic to their websites. And this not only includes publishers, but it also includes vendors, people
Mm-hmm.
selling things. Uh, Now, to be fair, if you're selling something, then you probably are not in a lot of danger from a chat bot, because I guess the chat bot would just tell people to, like, hey, where do I buy this? Oh, here's some stores.
Yeah.
Unless, because, well, I wouldn't say Google's not a seller, but they're not real, like they're not trying to just sell stuff themselves.
Right. They're
But
not. They're not a
uh,
storefront except for their own things for the most part, or Google powered things.
right,
But
so they're
they do have a dedicated search for products, which would probably make that search result accurate. You know what I
I
mean?
mean, yeah, yes. So but people who are in the business of providing information,
Mm-hmm.
such as you and I,
Yeah.
are potentially in trouble if that happens. Now, I still think that the quality of the result is not going to be as good, but the problem is sometimes not good quality stuff is good enough to get away with.
Right.
And Google, forget Bing for a second. Google has a near monopoly on search.
Mm-hmm.
So
They are the top two search engines. Not just the top one, they're the top two. Because the first one is Google and YouTube is the second.
this is quite dangerous, because we are all too reliant on them. But the problem is, like, this is also because of user habits, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
readers go to Google. They don't go, a lot of times they don't go to a website. They're like, oh yeah, let me just go, to CNET and see what's happening today.
Right.
They're like, no, let me search for this particular chunk of information that I want, and whoever comes up, that's who I'll go to.
Yeah.
And it may make a difference if they see that, okay, like, this site in search results a little more reputable to me than that one, but being number one, being number two, whatever, like, that really matters. Now, we already have been through this to an extent with the Google answer box,
Mm-hmm.
but that was for really short, really concise answers, and publishers just kind of stood there and took it, like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, we can't do
And then
much
started
about this because it's
optimizing
Google.
for it. Started putting
Right.
their
Well,
started trying to put their content in there. They didn't just take
because you're
it. They
number one.
then right. What are you gonna do? Are you gonna
At least there's a link, right? So
right?
so you could be, if you're in there, your link will be the highest, although they'll already have gotten the information. But maybe if the information is a little bit more detailed, you know, there'll be some more data there. But yeah, people may very well be like, okay, that's fine. If Google gives me an answer, it must be okay, and I'm just going to go with Google's answer. Well, that's of great concern. So
Yeah.
hopefully this somehow works alongside, and not by alongside, I don't just mean like, oh, here's our answer, and then if you really want it, somewhere later down the page there are actual search results. uh, I mean, there's a lot of um, lawsuits going on right now over the AI training. Like, I believe Getty Images is having a huge one,
Yeah.
uh, where they claim that something like millions of their images were used to train a model. Now, this is a very interesting philosophical and legal debate, because you could ask whether a robot or a bot has the same rights as a person to learn things. Like if I learn by reading, if I could sit there and I had enough time to read 10 million articles and I had a photographic memory, I guess I too could do that. And no one's going to stop me from learning from online sources and then applying that learning elsewhere. But the bot, we want to say, hey, this isn't fair. Now, as a human, I kind of am on the side of the humans here, but um, you know, it's a serious problem, and people obviously always blame the publishers. Like, well, what their bottle is broken. What would you like people to do? Because the other choices are a paywall, which some sites do, some places do, but are very unpopular, and it's very hard to get people to subscribe because there's so many free sources of information. So if you're the one who's asking people for money to subscribe, well then you better make sure that you can get people to really pay for that. And there's not a lot of sources. I mean, people have subscription fatigue,
Yeah,
so
for sure.
and they're already having to pay for all of their streaming services. So what's the what's the outcome here? I mean, is someone going to bring Alta Vista back to life, or bring the Lycos dog back from the dead, or something, to have, because we used to have a lot of competition in the search space.
Yeah, there was.
So if Google was doing something that people didn't like, well, they could have gone somewhere else. But now, I mean, there are choices, but as far as a business is concerned, no one is optimizing for um, DuckDuckGo, right? Um, I mean, even optimizing for Bing, I don't really see anybody doing, and that's the second. Well, as you said, not the second biggest, but the second biggest general search engine. I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah. So I took your comment and said, all right, well, let me explore on that concept, particularly around Getty Images, right? I can learn by looking. So I typed in a name of a celebrity whose name I've heard, but I have no idea what they look like. Harry Styles. No idea what he looked like until
Yeah, I'm not really sure what he looks like either. Shows you
right?
how old I am.
So what I did was I went to Getty Images and I searched for Harry Styles. And here I am looking, just browsing the website, browsing the search results on their site, using their images to learn what this dude looks like. And I now have a pretty good, confusing idea of what the guy looks like. He wears a lot of weird sheer shirts. Look like they're out of a particular Seinfeld episode. But that notwithstanding, I just used their site and their image collection to learn what the guy looks like. Right? So
Yep.
it is an interesting question.
Do you have more rights than a computer? But on the other hand, let's face it, most people cannot just look at a few Getty images and then immediately spit out like a ton of pretty realistic looking images of Harry Styles.
Sure. Yeah. There's been a lot of celebrity adult material created with some of these things. In fact, there was a Twitch streamer who weird things happened this week. He was looking at AI generated imagery of some other Twitch streamers that are friends of his, and there's a tearful apology. It was the whole thing was very strange. But yeah, I could not shut the laptop and then go draw him. I'd be able to describe him, in particular this weird pirate shirt he's wearing, but I couldn't go draw him, which does create a different context than the AI
Yes. I
training
mean,
situation.
there might be somebody who's a really, really good artist and really, but that that's probably very few people.
I I have a friend. She was on the show a couple of times. Had a friend. I don't know. I haven't talked to her in ages. Who could look at a picture. Somebody could come up to her and say, "I would like you to crochet this character from this anime." She'd go, "Well, I've never seen that anime. Show me a photo." They'd show her a photo. Within a couple hours, she's made the thing. Fascinating, and in great and terrifying detail. So yes, somebody out there probably could scroll through these couple of pages of, and by couple of pages, there are 17,000 images of Harry Styles on Getty Images. But they could scroll through a couple of pages and probably create a pretty good image, but few and far between. Versus how many of these generative AI systems are out there. I mean, I went to bing.com/chat just to see if maybe, and it took me to a search result for Bing AI. And the first thing on there is Bing's image creator. So, it's
Yep.
everybody's got one. So it's a little different than there's a couple of people who might be able to see a picture and draw. And then once an AI is trained, it can do all kinds of other interesting things that you and I wouldn't be able to do. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely a difference, and this is going to be a fascinating legal thing to follow in that regard, because the monkey is the owner of its selfie. So there's definitely some interesting legal things when it comes to who does and does not own rights and what they can and cannot do with information. So I don't know. My guess is we're going to be seeing this at least announced, if not released, possibly before we come back for another episode. So chances are there will be another follow up on this topic very soon. This week's DRM Not Included on F5 Live Refreshing Technology is proudly powered by Amazon Prime. We all know that you get free shipping on millions of products with Amazon Prime, but you get a whole lot more. Like free music with Amazon Prime Music, free TV, movies, and documentaries with Amazon Prime Video, free games, and a free Twitch subscription to support the content creator of your choice with Amazon Prime Gaming, plus a whole lot more. We've got links to all of these features and some of our favorites, plus a 30-day free trial, all by going to f5live.tv/prime. So, Paramount Plus has had an interesting history. When it started, it was called CBS All Access, which turned out to be a naming mistake because CBS has a particular image, particularly among younger people outside of the Big Bang Theory at the time. CBS was pretty well known as content for older people. So when the CBS All Access streaming service started, there was confusion for people outside of the industry. So it didn't do great. And then, of course, they botched their live stream of the Super Bowl, and that didn't help. And then CBS merged with Viacom, and all kinds of things happened. And in that shakeup, they renamed the platform to Paramount Plus. They did some UI updates, because All Access was not the easiest UI to use. The Paramount Plus one is way better. There are things from it that I absolutely love. But as competition in the streaming world has grown, the interest in having multiple streaming platforms under a single brand has waned. We know that Disney has said that they're interested in, once they have full ownership of Hulu, potentially collapsing Hulu and Disney Plus into a single platform. We know that HBO Max and Discovery Plus are in the process of doing that right now. And now we are learning that Paramount Plus and Showtime will be doing the same thing. And Paramount Plus will be getting a slightly different name, which nobody will use. It will be Paramount Plus with Showtime. And nobody will call it anything but Paramount Plus. And like Sprint together with Nextel, within a year or two, the tag will get dropped and it'll go back to just being Paramount Plus. But the important thing is here that Showtime is being scooped up into the Paramount Plus application, into the brand, and into the subscription. Details on the plan are limited because this comes from an internal leaked, or a pair of leaked memos about an internal announcement. But it's definitely happening. We don't know if what will happen is it'll be a tiered kind of a thing where you can have Paramount Plus or you can have Paramount Plus with Showtime with ads without. There might be options like that. But it's definitely happening. It's not a terrible surprise considering right now you can sign up and bundle Showtime into your Paramount Plus subscription and access them all through the same application. So the idea of just, axing the other application, not a huge surprise, but it is official. The CEO and the head of the division, I believe, have both confirmed that, yes, this is happening. And with it goes some content, a couple of shows that have a first season. Let the Right One In and American Gigolo have both been canceled. There will be no second season. And a project called Three Women, whose description says that it stars 4 women, which is beyond confusing to me, has finished shooting but will not air. And they'll likely try to shop that around to somebody else. I don't know why that ever happens, but whatever. But this is where we are. Like I said, I suspect, Avram, that within a pretty short period of time, the with Showtime will get dropped together with Nextel, and we'll be back to Paramount Plus. But it seems like this poor service just can't catch a break with a name.
Look, I guess they're throwing a bone to Showtime.
Yeah.
So, I guess, I guess the question is the price going to go up?
So none of that's been talked about yet. The actual business side of things was not discussed in these internal memos from what I saw of what was available. So we don't know exactly how it's going to work. Like I said, my suspicion is that it's going to be like a tiered thing where you'll have the ability to sign up for Paramount Plus without ads, Paramount Plus with Showtime, Paramount Plus with Showtime without ads. Yeah, that's my guess on how it's going to work, but there's no telling. The CEO said, we're committed to being as transparent and thoughtful as possible throughout this process, and we expect to share additional details in the coming weeks. So, don't know.
Right.
So, we'll know the business side of things probably in pretty short order. They did not intend for this to be public information. It was supposed to be internal, but there's no such thing anymore, so they should have been prepared, but they weren't. So there'll be a little bit of lead time before we find out exactly how all of this is going to tie together, and a timeline over which it'll happen. But they are saying that these 3 projects are not the only ones. I know that I don't know exactly what's happening with it, but I think Jordan Peele's reboot of The Twilight Zone may have been pulled from the service already. There's going to be content oddities as this happens. We don't know what all is going to happen, but he did say, while we're confident this is the right move for our company, our consumers, and our partners, we know this change brings uncertainty for the teams working on these brands and businesses. So they're aware, and they're warning people there are going to be we're not done. There are going to be other projects that get axed. So
I mean, people generally, I think, subscribe to Paramount Plus for. I mean, it has gotten better, but uh, I think they've generally been subscribing for Star Treks.
mm-hmm.
So, you know, as long as they're not axing my Star Trek,
Yeah,
they can
right.
axe anything they want. Um, they, it, it's. I mean, they have Evil is on there, and I don't think that's actually on CBS. I think that may be the streaming exclusive now. Um, but I don't really haven't watched past the first season.
It's just called Evil.
Uh, yeah, just called Evil.
Okay.
Um, oh, you can watch Clifford the Big Red Dog. Oh, I got to say this: the Nickelodeons, the Nick, the Nickelodeon stuff that's on here,
Mm-hmm.
like we actually end up watching quite a bit.
Nice.
Um, right? Because my daughter is obsessed with Blues Clues, so and makes me play her the Blues Clues movie over and over and over again. So could be worse. It's really, really could be worse. But anyway, um,
So so season 1 was on CBS. Seasons 2 and 3 and beyond are Paramount Plus exclusives.
right, right, and they exactly. So that I could see them maybe giving up on that.
There's a fourth season ordered and paid for.
Yeah,
So
alrighty.
we'll see what
Um,
happens.
yeah, but you know, it's, I mean, good for them. I still think it's clearly a second tier streaming service. Um,
Yeah.
if you like Nickelodeon, if you like Star Trek, and or if you want to watch CBS shows, uh, although you could get those through a service like YouTube TV instead, but
Mm-hmm. go
get
True.
them there. So, um,
It
but
is one of the
uh,
services that I have. I Star Trek and Survivor are basically the reasons why I have it. the the now 85 different Star Trek series and Survivor are basically the reason why I have it though.
so I have been watching a lot of Hulu recently.
Mm-hmm.
So my my streaming recommendations of the week are watch. Now I'm late to this because I'm sure everybody else has seen it first, but if you haven't, uh, watch Reservation Dogs on Hulu. That's a fantastic, hilarious show. Have you heard of that?
I've heard that. I've heard people say that.
Yes, on that is top choice.
Okay.
Um, I watched through the whole season of Kindred. That's pretty powerful show. And I started watching Extraordinary, which is a new British show on Hulu.
Oh.
Uh, that's kind of a comedy, but the premise is that everybody has superpowers except this one person. She doesn't hasn't gotten her superpower yet, but it's just like the premise aside, it's like just the way that they execute it is really funny. Uh, it's kind of, I won't get into it because there's some somewhat adult situations in the show.
Sure.
Um, but um, anyway, those are my
Extraordinary.
yes, yeah. Just it's just called Extraordinary.
Okay.
Um,
Eh.
but anyway,
Added to
those
my
are my
collection.
Hulu Hulu recommendations. So anyway, there's I guess good for Paramount Plus. I mean, I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll, of course, have information on that as soon as they make it public. Well, that is our show. Thank you to those of you who joined us live. We always appreciate it. If you didn't and would like to in the future, Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, you can go to f5live.tv/join us, chat with us in the studio, give us your feedback on the topics as we talk about them. If you're not able to join us live, that's okay too. PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows, including F5 Live, Piltch Point, PLUGHITZ Live Presents, and a whole lot more, and find all of the ways to watch, listen, and follow along. We are off for the next 2 weeks because of the Florida State Fair, and my desire to get at least 1 or 2 hours of sleep over the 12 days of, of that show, because that's going to be an insane event. But we're definitely looking forward to it. We'll be streaming a lot of content from it over on the Strike channel, so if you go to Twitch and find Strike Esports, we'll be doing a couple of workshops. I think we've got 8 workshops, we've got 10 tournaments. Like I said, it's going to be a wild 12 days, so definitely check it out. But I guess with that, on behalf of the staff that's not here, I'm Scott.
I'm Avram.
And we'll see you back next time. Ciao.